Hello and welcome to Julia, Tom, and me. I'm Brendan or Shoddy, but that's not what's important here. What's important here is my guests. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And you guys have collectively brought a topic. What is that?
Brazil
Jesus.
Jiu-Jitsu.
I didn't know if we were going to say the Brazilian beforehand.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, that was terrible, but it is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu!
Um, yeah, so before we get into that, I will contextualize how we know each other. So Julia and I have known each other since we were like 10 or 11, middle
we
school.
went to middle school together.
And then met Tom at some point after you guys started dating, and now we live in the same city because Tom and I both coincidentally got jobs here
Mm-hmm.
and do weekly board game.
Now we live in the same house.
Yeah, it's true.
True, temporarily we do. But the mic is picking me up now.
It is?
So I'll turn you down.
Yeah, this is also a weird one because we have swapped audio setups.
Yeah.
I think it's still picking him
It
up.
is, yeah.
Okay, what do we do?
We can just turn him down more.
Yeah, you could turn it down and scoop closer probably.
We can move this away.
Oh, that's
Or
a good idea.
Yeah, actually.
yeah, that works too. Because yeah, it's also set to cardioid, so it picks up less from the back than it does from the front.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect.
So how about now?
Yeah, that's good. Well,
We could probably turn him up again.
I wouldn't. It's still hearing me sometimes. Sorry, just technical stuff, fun stuff. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a thing that you guys do. Did you guys actually start doing it?
End of 2018. In
End of
December.
2018, December 2018.
So we moved out to Arizona. Yeah, about 4 years. So we moved out to Arizona in August of 2018, and then we decided to do something.
Yeah, Tom was like, I want to fight people. And I was
I
like,
don't know if I was
I
like,
kind of want to fight people too.
yeah,
Was it? You guys moved in 2018? I thought you guys moved sooner than that.
no,
You
it's
guys got into it like
2018.
pretty immediately after moving out here,
Yeah,
and it was just you were bored and had nothing to do in this city, and just
well, I wanted to do something physical and
Learning self-defense.
yeah, self-defense, and also I thought it would be a good way to meet friends,
No,
to make friends.
but we like working out.
Yeah, that's not to say, yeah, we can talk about the culture if you want, because that's kind of a good segue, I feel like.
Culture is fun.
Yeah,
Sure.
so yeah, we wanted to join to make friends. And not saying that we hate the people there, but ideologically, we don't really vibe. And
Yeah.
kind of our emotional priorities don't align either.
A lot of the people that want to fight other people are like weird.
I don't know why you guys are
Oh,
dancing around this. You can just explicitly say there's a lot of like tap out bros and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
there's
there's like a lot of
Yeah.
chuds
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of chuds.
yeah, so like a lot of people who are, well, I mean, like, it's less than you'd think, but
There's some cool people.
yeah, but
They're
also
also kind of chuds though.
yeah, it's like it's less overt chuddiness and a lot more what I would consider to be casual chuddiness, where it's just like, things that people say, or like things that people do, or how they react to certain things that aren't necessarily like I hate women in minorities, but like I think that implies that you might hate women in minorities. So,
yeah. So we've
or
talked about this.
you want to like,
I've
oh, sorry.
I've been around the like step further culture of UFC people like that are like way into that, which is like I think one more level of chud probably.
There's a lot of overlap, I think.
Yeah, well, UFC is a little bit different.
UFC is a little bit different. It's
Yeah,
more
or
like people who
MMA.
are into MMA, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people in UFC.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like wrestlers that do jujitsu and
Yeah.
are also into UFC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same crowd.
Yeah, well, a large subset of um, UFC or MMA, mixed martial arts, is jujitsu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So often, almost all,
All the good guys have at least blue belts.
yeah.
yeah.
And so, which represents about a year or two of jujitsu experience. So, yeah, so a lot of the time, like even if your game isn't like that in MMA, you might go to the ground, and
Mhm.
that's where jujitsu is.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So
like grappling.
Yeah,
yeah, because somebody might tackle you or whatever, or you might fall over.
yeah.
So it's something that comes up a lot in
Hmm.
that. Not that we actually watch a lot of that.
No, I mean, I
So
watched it as, I mean, I didn't really even watch it that much then. My family, we used to go hang out with family friends. Two brothers my dad went to high school with. They still hang out with them, and so all the families would sort of get together and have dinner together, and then watch UFC fights, and the kids would dig around in the basement, do everything. So that's sort of my engagement with the culture. And some of them are in that family, the sort of wear tap out shirts and I could beat people up if I tried sort of people. Like
yeah.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, so that's sort of my engagement with the culture sort of directly. Um did you guys pick jujitsu specifically, like that's what you wanted to do, or were you just looking for something that's what you happened to fall into?
So well, did you have any?
We no, it's you were the one who
Yeah, yeah.
wanted to.
Okay. Well, I thought that maybe it was more of a conversation, but um, so and I just want to remember it properly. So I had a friend in middle school who was really into this sort of thing, and so he would, and in high school, so he would like attack people consensually,
Okay.
kind of. Kind of. Like, essentially, he wouldn't attack somebody, like, that wasn't aware that he did this and, like, willing to engage. But and then he would be like, "Oh, I learned this move online," or whatever, or, um, "Yeah, I wanted to try out this thing." So and it was all the time because he's a high energy guy. So, yeah, there was a lot of that. But even further than that, so we were still friends, kind of in yeah, we were friends in elementary school, and we used to play a game called like I don't think I ever mentioned this to you. Whoever touches the ground first loses, and so it was like if you make 3 points of contact with the ground, you lost. So we would run around the yard and like be throwing each other or like tackling each other to like yeah, to make you either put like a hand down or like both knees in your head or whatever else. And so but that's more like judo. That's more
That
like
is more
throwing.
like
Yeah,
judo.
but it was still in the same vein. Um so there was a lot of that as well. But that was a lot more unstructured. So as you can imagine, um yeah, but that was fun.
It's almost like I have to learn jujitsu so when I time travel, I can beat that kid up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it's partially just because I know it's actually kind of fun. Like I just didn't like I wasn't particularly good or bad at it. I just really because if you're bad at it, you might be like, I really need to work on this so that if anyone ever attacks me, I need to be better. Or you're really good at it, so you get the dopamine and you're like, I need this fix. So you keep doing it. But I was just kind of like, well, I just think it's fun. Like it's honestly just kind of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I kind of I don't know if my baby brain neural plasticity like created those dopamine channels so that, I was brought back to it. But it's definitely fun now too. So,
It is fun.
yeah.
And you guys are, I we just had this conversation. You guys are blue belts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are two stripe blue belts, and you want to describe the belt system?
So there's white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. And you get like 4 stripes, I think, at each one. And it's based on like how long you've been training. So you have to train a certain amount of time to get the stripes. And it varies, but to get where like we're at, it took us about like 4 years.
Yeah. But
We took some time off for COVID.
yeah,
We
we took
filed
about a
out for
year
COVID.
and a half or 2 years off.
Yeah, so that's more like 2 years, and then to get a black belt, the minimum time is like 9 years, but most people take longer.
Yeah, because just stuff gets in the way, like continuously.
You
Um,
have to continuously train. It's
yeah.
like how often you come to class.
Um, yeah, our instructor, who we call professor, um, actually told me the benchmark is twice a week. So, you
Mhm.
know, um, if white belt is 1 year, it's twice a week for a year.
Oh, okay.
So if you go more than that, and it will never be less than a year.
Mhm.
So you have to be going at least twice a week for a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it represents, so there's 52 weeks in a year, so it's like 104 hours at least, typically more, of training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't get belts for being good. Get belts like based on how long you've been training. So they force you to just train for a really long time if you want to progress.
That does seem
And
peculiar. Like, I mean, the amount of the time of training makes sense to a degree, but the fact that it is unwavering, even if someone is like going all the time and like, you know, if the if you guys were people that did tournaments, like winning tournaments, proving themselves against people, like you think it would speed it up.
There is sandbagging at
yeah.
like belt levels to win more tournaments.
Yeah.
Lots of people do that.
The tournaments take place at different belts. So
Yeah.
if you're a white belt, you'll go up against other white belts. And an instructor won't um, promote you, even if you have time at another gym, if they don't know the quality of that gym.
That's true. Yeah.
So, like, some people will just hop from gym to gym and stay at white belt for 4 years. And
There-
then they just shred all the other white belts that they compete against.
Yeah, and some people come in with like wrestling experience and they're just better
Yeah,
at
Yeah.
white belt because like they know how to do things.
right. Or judo.
Or judo,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I've encountered fewer people who know judo than wrestling. There are definitely a lot more people who know wrestling. Um, like Greco-Roman wrestling, like
Yeah.
from high school.
Wrestling, I
From
am more intimately familiar with. My whole family wrestles. Trevor wrestled for years. I wrestled for a year. Like,
Oh, you did?
yeah, I didn't do any tournaments. I just did the practices, and like I was going to do tournaments, but I was like, I don't actually give a fuck about this. I already knew I was gonna not continue it, and I was like, I don't need to do this tournament bullshit.
So, what do you remember anything from wrestling?
Not really. It was a long time ago. It was like middle school probably.
Oh,
I did it.
okay. Yeah.
Um,
They're really similar, jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
yeah, yeah. So I've been to a lot of wrestling tournaments, and actually, so you mentioned tournaments are belt classed. Are they also weight classed inside belt classing, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah,
They're gendered and weight classed.
And also age, but like for example, I don't have a lot of people in my gender age weight belt class. So
yeah.
sometimes they'll like ask if you are willing to like change to a different class. So like I'll fight someone in a different weight class. That also happened to Tom.
Yeah. Um, yeah. We've only done one competition total.
Yeah, but we're probably gonna do another one
Yeah.
soon.
Mhm. So we can talk about the competition if you want.
Yeah,
Sure.
what was the competition like?
Do you want to go first?
Well, it was actually a while ago at this
It was
point,
2019.
2019. Um, I only had one fight because of the aforementioned
Yeah,
issues finding someone for me to fight. And I won that. It was kind of a hilarious win because I was losing the whole time, and then at the end, in like the last like 30 seconds, I scored like 11 points. Uh,
Do you want to describe the point system?
I don't really understand the point system, so no.
Okay. I don't quite understand it either. Um, as in, I don't know the exact point values, but I know like the gist of it.
You get points for certain
is
things.
Yeah.
it similar to wrestling? Like you
So,
get points for taking to the ground, you get points for a hold, you get
right.
points for escaping a hold,
Yep.
stuff like that.
So, yeah, there are different positions
Hmm.
that are really common in jujitsu, which are actually different than wrestling.
Well, yeah.
Because you can actually almost all of the positions involve somebody with their shoulders pinned to the ground,
Yes.
Yeah.
or not necessarily pinned, but just in contact with the ground,
Yeah.
which I know in wrestling is like the whole point.
That's the requirement. Yes. For a
Right.
pin, the shoulders have to be making contact with the ground.
And is a pin a win or is it just points?
A pin is a win. If you pin and you hold them for
Yeah.
3 seconds, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah. In jujitsu, you like fight from those positions on your
Right.
back,
Yeah.
basically.
But there is an equivalent, which is a submission. Um, which is but it looks a lot it looks a lot different.
A submission is basically like where you could hurt someone. So a choke or an armbar, which means like if they try to do anything, you just break their arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
Right.
like self-defense
The ref
based
stops it
almost.
before they do it. But there's also
Right.
Or they can.
yeah,
Yeah.
tap outs as well. But the ref will stop it if
Yeah.
they refuse to tap out. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And
they'll
there's
give you
like
the win.
shoulder locks and leg
Yeah.
locks. You can get anyone in any combination of
And
bones.
some
Yeah.
of that stuff
So
exists in wrestling as well.
yeah. So like that will always end a fight just like a pin. But then there's this other point system, which is
Like if you time out of the fight, it's assessed by points.
yeah. So the
Yeah.
points are kind of like a tiebreaker almost. And there are submission only fights.
Hmm.
Okay.
But they're typically longer and like nobody likes to do them.
And they're kind of at the higher level. Like at our level, nobody's gonna fight for an hour straight.
Right. I wonder
Yeah.
if wrestling has pin only tournaments. Because yeah, wrestling is the same way. If you time out, they go by points, or you can TKO someone if you get an excess, or if you reach a point number. I forget what it is, like 11 or 13 or some
Yeah, like a
bullshit.
mercy thing.
Yeah, it's just like you reach this number first, you're clearly beating them. End it.
Yeah. So Julia, so like you said, so one of the critical points is that getting out of a position gets you points.
Mhm.
So Julia had a sequence where like her opponent got her into a really bad position, and attempted to submit her
Oh
for
yeah.
about like 4 minutes.
Yeah, so this is my personal special skill. Some submissions don't work on me because my shoulders are too flexible. So she had me in this submission and was just cranking it and like was applying it properly, but it just doesn't work. So I wasn't tapping, and so I just like was able to get out of it.
Yeah, well, and it's not like the ref knew that.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, it
like
is interesting
I
that they
was
didn't stop
watching it
it.
and it was kind of like gross to actually we have videos so we can send that to you. You can add
Okay.
them as like an appendix on the
yeah. It looks like my arm should be breaking, but it just doesn't break.
and then she essentially reverses the sequence and does almost the identical thing in like the last 30 seconds of the fight, but because she got out of the position, she got those extra points and won.
Hmm.
Do you get points for reversal? It's been a while. I think in wrestling you get points for getting out and for reversing. Like if you like pretty
I
immediately
think you
get
just
out.
get points for getting out, but then you still get points for
What I
Oh
got
yeah, I
points
guess that's
for
true.
was I got out and then I took her back. And then I was switching between the positions mount and being on her back. And those are like the only two positions you can switch between and like continuously get points because they're both like very advantageous. You always get points for taking the back and always get points for mount. So I just switched between those and got a ton of points in the last 30 seconds or whatever.
So you can just farm points by switching positions.
yeah, but it's really hard.
Two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not easy. And I think the only I mean, I don't want to say, I mean, part of the reason is because Julie is a skilled jujitsu practitioner. But the other thing was pretty sure the other person gassed themselves
Yeah, she was
really
very
Yeah.
hard.
tired because she
Yeah.
was cranking that submission
Yeah.
really hard, so I just, like, kinda moved her around where I wanted her to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff like that from just Trevor's wrestling tournaments as well. Somebody really goes for something and then they just lose because they overcommitted to it and didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it would have worked on me, and it
Yeah.
It would've
probably would have
worked
worked
on
on like
most other people.
95% of people.
Yeah.
Just got, like, Gumby bones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Um,
How did you fare in the tournament, Tom?
so I cut weight to get into a lower weight class.
Yeah.
Um, so I went down to 168, which is like the border of like the high border of one of the weight classes. There was nobody in that weight class Then there was nobody in the weight class above. So I went to 2 above, but really it was like 1 above because I just cut
Right,
down to
one above your
whatever.
normal.
But yeah. And then I had 3 matches because there were a lot. I think some people maybe got sucked up, so maybe it wasn't quite like it was all only people in that weight bracket. Um, but the I won all 3 by submission. So, and they were all very
Yeah.
yeah.
My fight was like 5 minutes and his were all like 30
Yeah,
seconds.
the cumulative time of all of my fights was less than Julia's fight. So the first one I got was with a triangle, and then I had the second one actually took a long time.
A
And
triangle is a choke, by the way,
yeah, oh yeah, it's a type of choke. The second one was with a guillotine, which is also a kind of choke. And then the last one was an arm.
which is where you break their arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of UFC stuff from just kid time, and like so I'm
Mhm.
familiar with quite a few of these.
Yeah.
Um, how is the tournament organized? Like, how much before did you weigh?
I didn't cut that hard. So I went to 168, and I think I was like 178.
No, no, I mean how much before you entered the tournament? Like, how long before the tournament start did you weigh? Like, did they
Oh,
check
when
your
you show
weight?
up,
Oh
you
yeah, it's
just
day of.
weigh. Yeah.
Okay, because wrestling
And like if your
sometimes
weight
it's day
is
of.
wrong, if your weight is too low, I think you can still compete. If your weight is too high, I'm not sure if you can compete for
Well,
the.
obviously, if your weight is too low,
Yeah.
I think they'll just put you in a different bracket.
Yeah.
Like they'll organize the
They do
brackets
the
the
same
same day.
thing, yeah, wrestling. But so there were some tournaments, like I think States was this way for wrestling because it was so many people competing because it's it's the state tournament. Um, that they had to do weights like the day before because there's just so many fucking kids competing. And so a lot of people would cut weight and then put weight back on
Yeah.
to have an advantage.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't really feel like that would barely work. I mean, I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
not a huge advantage, but I mean, having a little more weight to throw around does help if you're fighting someone smaller than you.
Hmm.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like weight whiplash like that would just be.
I wonder if they just like dehydrated themselves and then rehydrated
Yes, they'll
themselves.
do everything. Like there you'll see kids like at States running laps around the convention center before weigh-in time, just trying to sweat out as much weight as they can. And then like everyone's like go to the bathroom before you weigh in, take off as much clothes as they'll let you to weigh in, like they will do whatever.
Yeah, people aren't like that at jujitsu as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean that
That's
again,
fucked up.
that is States, which is like a pretty unique circumstance. That's like
yeah.
the state tournament, the one you really want to win. Like,
That's true. However, I feel like professional jujitsu fighters
yeah, probably not.
probably don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's probably
Yeah.
like super stressful to be like, because it's usually a parent or coach is pushing you to do this thing, and you're like a 12-year-old boy that has to do this thing. Like I
Yeah,
remember
and like,
Trevor
how are
having
you
to do
gonna
it.
fight if you feel like sick?
That's why States
Yeah,
sometimes it was the day before, so like you can recover a bit from the terrible thing
I
you just did
almost
to your
feel,
body.
yeah, well, I don't know. I just feel like it would, that seems like something that's more psychological. Like it wouldn't actually help.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would actually help at all.
Like you would
Like,
probably be
unless you
true.
were not even if you're on the cusp of a weight class, like, I don't know. I fight people bigger than me all the time, and like someone just one weight class bigger than me is not really that big of a threat
Yeah,
that I need to do that for.
people just want to leverage whatever advantage they can, I think.
Yeah, any
Yeah,
advantage. Yeah.
yeah.
States also took place across multiple days. It was like an all weekend thing. So if you like, I think the first day if you won two, you went to the Saturday day, and then if you won two, you went to the finals on Sunday morning or whatever.
Did you
So
have to weigh in every day?
no, you just weighed in the first time, I believe.
Mm,
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Sounds
and
awful.
you weigh in with your gi on,
Yeah, with your
Right.
gi on.
which is your fight pajamas.
They weigh about like 4 pounds, I think.
Hmm.
I think most people weighed in their singlets. Actually, I think you had the choice. You could either weigh in your underwear or your singlets, because all you're giving yourself is a disadvantage. Because a singlet is not a heavy piece of clothing; it is a spandex little thing. So by
Yeah,
by
we
wearing
wear like
clothes to
full
weigh in,
pajamas.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys have only done one tournament, but you're planning to do. Are
Planning to
are
do
you going to
more.
do them in blue belt, or are you gonna wait until you
No,
rank
blue
up?
belt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're gonna do one probably just so we can do one for blue belt. Like our professor, the guy who runs the gym, is the one who like promotes you and stuff, and he's like, you should do a competition. I'm gonna promote you to purple belt, so you should do one in blue. That's why we're gonna do one.
Yeah. He said before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
How widespread is the like age bracket at at your gym where you go?
All of the
there's
ages.
literally
I spar with kids all the
yeah,
time because I'm small.
there are literally like 14-year-olds up to I think there's a guy there who's like 70 years
Yeah,
old.
there's some old
Yeah.
dudes.
So like there's like a big
And there's like young kids classes too. We don't train with the young kids. We only train with like you said, 14-year-olds, people who are like our size.
and I rarely train with
I
14-year-olds.
Well,
train with
yeah.
a lot of
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
14-year-olds.
So yeah,
Yeah.
because we generally try to match up.
Yeah, they match up people based on size for like drilling and sparring and stuff.
Okay.
And it's just kind of random.
Well, we can talk about what like a class looks like what a typical class looks like.
Yeah, we could do that.
You want to start with that?
Okay.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Well, uh first we do a warm up, which is like jumping jacks, squats, push-ups, etc., and like a couple specific jujitsu warm-ups, and then some stretches. And then the instructor will like demo a move on someone and pair everyone up, and then everyone like drills the move for a while. And then he'll demo another move, which is like either a continuation of the first move or a new related move. And we'll do about like 3 or 4 moves a class, and then at the end of class you spar a little bit, and then there's also like classes just for sparring that you just spar the whole time.
Yeah. So in the sparring, depending on the class, either is just free form, like you can basically do whatever you want within the rules of jujitsu, or you start from a certain position and then there are certain like special constraints. So typically you train a move, and then there's something called specific training, which is essentially sparring, but with those specific constraints, so that you exercise that move. And then literally nobody ever does it because at
I
least
always try to do
no, no,
it.
no, I try to do it, but you know, everyone I go with is like, I'm obviously not gonna do the move because that's what he's expecting.
That's cringe.
So I'm gonna do
The
something
point
else
of it
because
is to
I
train
want to
the
win.
move.
I want to win the specific
Yeah, a
training.
lot of people want to win, they don't want to train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I roll with less people like that because like a lot of women there are like there for self-defense, so they want to get better. They
They're
don't
just
want to
normal
just like
people.
fuck you up. Yeah.
Yeah, wrestling practice is actually a lot the same way. Jumping jacks, stretches, run laps beforehand, uh, start in a pin, practice getting out, or practice reversing, or whatever. Like it seems pretty similar. Um,
Hmm.
th- does uh does jujitsu also? I mean, I guess you guys have only done one tournament, but is there, to your knowledge, a sanity problem in the world of jujitsu? Because like
A
wrestling
what?
has a problem with like ringworm spreading around.
Oh yeah.
Our gym has never had a problem with that, but yes, jujitsu, like as an entity, does have a
Yeah.
problem with that. Our gym is pretty nice, like as far as cleanliness and like a lot of things, like culture, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I think
But
it's probably not a thing that happens so much at a local gym because it's probably being cleaned like immediately after every practice or whatever. But yeah, at tournaments it's like it didn't happen a lot to Trevor, but it was definitely a thing that like you heard during a tournament somebody got ringworm somewhere. Like
yeah, that's gnarly. That's never happened to either of us or anyone we know, but I'm sure it happens.
yeah, I don't remember if Trevor ever got ringworm. He probably has. He wrestled for years.
Wish I got ringworm.
A lot of people get cauliflower
Yes,
ear.
cauliflower ear is also very big in wrestling. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, that fucks your ears up too. Like if you look at like particularly like MMA guys, like their ears are just fucking toast. Like because they have to deal with the grapples as well as just getting kicked directly in the ear and stuff
Yeah,
like
in the
that.
head. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who runs our gym has like really intense cauliflower ear because he's a boxer, I think,
Yeah,
too. So
that'll do
he's
it.
just like his ears are fucked up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're just like little cheese puffs
Yeah,
yeah.
on the side of his head.
but he's a good fighter, so
Yeah.
One thing I did want to talk about is the guy that you were wearing the shirt of the other day, Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
man himself. I want to hear about that
So
man.
yeah, so um I can just give like a little bit of background, and then I think Julia wants to talk more specifically about some.
you just say whatever you want.
Okay. So like I know a little bit about the history of jujitsu. So jujitsu originally is from Japan, and it was a martial art designed to be able to counter the samurai. So if you're going up against somebody with a lot of armor, you're not going to punch them because you're going to be punching armor and it's not going to be that effective. So it was a martial art of how to like defend yourself against an armored opponent. So it was like, how do you know, choke them out or submit them or whatever. But a large element of it was using their arm against them. So like, maybe grabbing like their collar or the cuff of their shirt or their pants or something and using that to throw them. So that's how it originated. Um, and then there was can't forget if it was Helio or if it was another Japanese guy who was really small.
I think it was
Yeah,
Helio.
I think Helio Gracie was a Brazilian guy, really small, um, but wanted to be able to beat people up. So he went and learned jujitsu in Japan, or somebody came from Japan. So he learned that to beat people up who were bigger than he was. Um, and he founded like this whole family dynasty of the Gracies, which are responsible
He
for.
basically invented a new type of grappling
Yeah.
with like jujitsu principles.
Yeah. So, but it was a little bit more. So when original jujitsu was invented, it was about countering samurai, but times change. So like on the streets of Brazil, you're probably not wearing full samurai armor.
Hmm.
So there was a lot more flexibility in the technique, and it looked a little bit more like wrestling. And that's how Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was born. And then the person who actually founded the gym, so Helio Gracie was the one who founded the martial art itself, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, as distinguished from Japanese Jiu Jitsu. And then uh, I just said Carlos Gracie was the one who founded like the gym.
Yeah, there's like a megacorp gym that
Yeah.
was founded by Carlos Gracie, and we go to a franchise of this gym.
Yeah, it's called Gracie Baja. Yeah. So we're part of the cult.
It's like a cult, yeah, but we're in it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like you at the end of every class you bow to a picture of him.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's delightful.
Although he's dead.
He's
Yeah,
dead.
he's dead. So it's, you know.
That's not
Jujitsu
better.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's not
Well,
better.
I think it's better. If
Venerating
we, I don't know.
a dead
You
person is
you
not
also bow to you bow to the
You bow
professor.
to all of
okay.
your
That bowing
teammates
to the
do.
professor makes more sense though, because that
I
is
agree.
that is respect for
Oh,
the
I
person who's
agree.
teaching you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bowing to the picture of the guy is weird, but it's kind of
Yeah,
hilarious.
I
So
think
I'm
it's kind
with
of funny.
him.
And you said
Yeah.
this guy also has a thing about names, right? That was a thing.
Yeah, Jules, do you wanna?
Oh yeah. So like there is this really in-depth interview with him. He's really weird, by the way. For a lot of
This is
reasons.
Carlos Gracie, right?
Yeah, yes, I believe
Yeah,
so.
I think it is.
So like he has views about women that are cringe, but my favorite thing about him is that he has like 16 children and their names all start with R, and he says that this is because R is the strongest letter. So some of my favorite ones are Rorden and Rorion, like Orion, but with an R at the beginning.
Okay.
It's a lot stronger. And that one has 2 R's in it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he change his name then? It
That's a good question.
neither his first name nor his surname starts with an R.
Yeah, you're right. They both have an R
They
in
both
them
have
though.
it, but Orion also has an
True.
R in it already. You don't need to
Yeah.
add another one on the front.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, he's like a major weirdo, but he is a good fighter, obviously.
Yeah.
I guess.
So,
There is a level of like insanity that comes with dedicating yourself to a thing so fully that everything else falls to the wayside.
Yeah.
and also when
Except you're
that thing is fighting people.
Well, yeah. Also, yes, some
yeah.
of your senses being knocked out of you on a regular basis.
Yeah, and so then a majority of these kids that he had are now like
They fight too.
they're fighters
Of
and they're
course. I
all
mean,
very
They do pretty well in the UFC or
yeah.
whatever.
So
No, not the yes,
yeah, no, yeah.
it's the
So
UFC.
originally in the UFC, I don't know if you remember this, but it wasn't as I don't know. I would say the point of it wasn't just it was people fighting each other with the best techniques or whatever. It was essentially like um you bring together people from different disciplines to find who's the ultimate fighting champion. So
yeah,
you would have like a wrestler and a jujitsu person and a I don't know, like a karate guy and like a sambo guy or whatever. And so originally it was Roger Gracie. I'm pretty sure who it was.
Okay.
And that's just a normal R name. Like
yeah.
there are a lot of them. He could have probably found a couple more
I
of them.
think he just
Did he
started
want
running
all of?
out.
Did he have all want all of them to have two R's? Is that the thing?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Roger does have yeah,
So does Rorden, so does Rorion.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so Roger Gracie in like the early 90s when UFC was starting showed up to the Ultimate Fighting Championship in his gi and would fight in his gi, which is a disadvantage.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely
it's
is a
definitely a
disadvantage.
disadvantage. But you can choke people with your gi.
Yeah, you can
sure.
choke people with your
But
gi.
that was something that was illegal in the UFC. You
Choking people with the gi?
choking people,
Your
submitting somebody
clothes. Yeah,
with the clothes
that
because
makes
you could bring in like I don't know,
Yeah,
like steel gauntlets and
yeah,
like
yeah,
bash their head
yeah.
in or whatever.
Or just like a rope.
Right? Yeah, or like an axe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was illegal. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So he was just at a very distinct disadvantage, and I'm pretty sure he won like the first three that he was in.
Yeah,
Um,
he like swept up.
yeah. So people like were like, oh my god, jujitsu is like the ultimate, like sport to learn if you just want like no rules fighting. So that's another reason why people really gravitate towards it. It's pretty
Mhm.
popular. I would say of the martial arts, it's probably of martial arts that adults practice.
Yeah, there's
yeah,
like several hundred people that train at our gym, I think.
Yeah, and we're one gym of like 6 Gracie Baja gyms, and there are a lot of other non Gracie Baja gyms
Yeah, in
in
Phoenix.
Phoenix. So like, yeah,
It's also big in like LA and stuff. A lot of celebrities train jujitsu for like self-defense.
yeah. So like what's his name? Jonah Hill trains. Um, Joe Rogan obviously came from
Joe Rogan obviously trains Brazilian
yeah.
jiu-jitsu.
yeah. And then who's do you know any of the other ones? I know Jonah Hill does.
I want to say Ashton Kutcher.
Okay, we'll just say that's definitely true. And
That
there's
doesn't seem
probably
that
others.
wild since he's directly involved in the defense of women as like a career choice now.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not personally going out there. Well, maybe I
Well,
don't
you
know.
don't
I don't
know.
know his life.
He might
Yeah,
be
I don't
training
I
know.
to be
I feel
Batman.
like as someone who's already a celebrity and then you do that, he's got a target on you.
But I just mean like
You gotta
if you're
have it.
advocating for the defense of women, you've probably been in enough circuits of like these women have gone to do various trainings and you're like, well, let me get in
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, a lot of the women that show up are just there because it's like the best martial art to learn to fight someone bigger than you. I'm
Yeah.
not saying the size doesn't matter, but it's just like
Well,
the
it's
best
about
one.
using someone's weight like effectively against them.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that that's true, and then that's why Helio Gracie originally started
Yeah,
doing it,
yeah.
was because he was like, "Oh yeah, this is the one that gives me the biggest chance of beating somebody who's way
Yeah,
bigger than
I
me."
would say that's the
And you can
distinct.
basically like you can fuck people up from seemingly disadvantaged positions, like if you're in a real fight where someone else doesn't know jujitsu.
Yeah, that feels like the distinct difference between that and like Greco-Roman wrestling, where Greco-Roman wrestling is about overpowering the person you are fighting and pinning them, whereas Jiu-Jitsu is more about using your flexibility or your size to your advantage to submit them.
Yeah, it's pretty creative, honestly. Like I do a lot of things that I'm not taught when I like actually spar.
Of spider monkeying around people.
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, or like I'll just like grab something to like do some, I don't know. Yeah, it's like kind of hard to explain, but during classes, like if you ingest the classes to kind of be like you're learning building blocks and not like complete, or you're learning like principles. You're
Yeah,
not
there's like
learning.
underlying concepts to a lot of the moves you learn. So if you learn the concepts, you're not necessarily doing the same move, but you are.
Yeah. Like you're adopting certain elements of it, or being like, oh, I see, like now I see why I don't turn this way. I turn this way when I'm in this position. So
Mm-hmm.
even if I'm going to try something else, I'm still going to turn this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's cool in that way.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel Jiu-Jitsu is advantageous to all body types, or do you think certain things would be more advantageous to someone of a different body type?
Well, I'm gonna say I think jujitsu has a really wide swath of things that you can do. So Julie and I talk all the time because we're very different sizes. That basically like we we have completely different games. So like we're both guard players too. So that already is like, so
It's
basically,
like a Venn diagram of things we can do, and ours overlaps, but there's some things that are exclusive because of our size and body type,
well, what
yes.
what I'm saying is there's like such a big map of different styles, even within jujitsu, that you could almost certainly find your place depending on your size.
Yeah.
So I'm a big guy, but in particular, I have long legs.
Right,
So
you're
I do something called
slender,
close.
which is why I think Jiu-Jitsu is, or maybe not slender is not the word, but lanky, I guess is the.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there's very big people too, and they like can be and are good. It's like just you have to do jujitsu differently based on your size, and that is dependent on your learning, and because not all the instructors are going to be the same size as you. Like our instructors are pretty small, so I learn well from them. But
but we used to have a
yeah,
much
we used to
larger
have a really
instructor.
big guy. Some of the moves he said to do don't really work for me. So like it's sort of what you get out of the move. And it'll be different based on how big you are. There's some things I just don't do. There's some things Tom just can't do that I
It's
can
true.
do,
Yeah.
etc. I can do
So
a lot of being upside down because I just climb
yeah,
around, stuff like
yeah,
that.
I can't really do that. So like what I was building up to say was like my game is called closed guard. So I often wrap my legs around somebody or keep them tight to me with my legs. Whereas Julia does something called open guard, which is where she'll keep her legs undone and maybe in between the person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like, and that's just because our body types are different. And like she could do closed guard and I could do open guard, but I
Like, it's if I do close guard, like my legs aren't long enough that like wrapping them around someone like this isn't gonna have the same strength. And like if he does open guard, his legs are like tucked up to him and he's not
yeah,
really doing much. I can like fight people with my arms and legs at the same time.
like my legs will be so far away from my arms that I
Yeah.
yeah. That and there's something called passing, which is where, somebody you're trying to keep your legs in between the person.
Yeah, because that's like the best defense you have. If you have your legs in between like you and them, like you're not getting fucked up basically.
Yeah. And so with longer legs, like it takes a lot more energy for me to move my leg like this to kind of like if they like run to the side, right? To get my leg like that, it's a lot harder to do when you have a longer leg versus a shorter leg.
Yeah,
Like she's a
because you
lot
have to
more
like,
nimble with her legs, and I'm a little bit more clunky.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and then what I would say is like if I was more muscular
That's sort of the case
and
I'm thinking
larger,
about is like a more top-heavy oriented person who has some bulk. Like,
yeah. So
Most of the people there are bigger like, most of the people we train with are bigger than us.
yeah. And so their style, and there's probably subdivisions of this as well. And we'd probably get to a point if we were better at jujitsu where we would understand there are even more divisions within the areas that we work in. But so there are people who play guard or pull guard, and then there are guard passers or people who do takedowns. Um, so that would be people who throw other people. And so there are positions that are more dominant than guard. And so they'll throw you so that they can get into that position and they don't have to deal with your guard. Or they have really good ways of passing your guard. So, maybe I put up my guard, but they know how to get around it. So there are people who play like that where they're like, I'll go into your guard, but I'm just going to get out of it and I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah, and a lot of people that train are more muscular than us. We're both like kind of scrawny as far as like serious jujitsu practitioners go. Like for our heights, most of the people I train with are bigger than me. Most of the people Tom trains with are way bigger than
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So
So it's mostly they pair you up based on height, if they can, and then like your weight is secondary.
yeah, so but to come back to the kernel of your question, um, I would say that there are styles of jujitsu that preclude a certain weight or body shape, but all of jujitsu I think is inclusive to all body types.
Mm.
Like I saw a video recently of somebody submitting somebody else without use of their arms. And in that case, they were handcuffed, but it could be a person without arms,
right.
right? There are styles to do that. And
Mhm.
actually, there was a guy who was visiting who was doing instructions, and he had a broken arm from doing. You weren't there.
Oh,
Yeah. So and he was demonstrating how to do submissions without using this arm, and it was very interesting because I was like, there are people, who don't haven't just broken their arm; it's gone, right?
yeah. The instruction is pretty focused on like self-defense for specific like body types and people often. Like usually the regular classes are like they focus on half self-defense and half sport jujitsu.
Yeah. So I think even more so than a lot of other martial arts, body types can thrive, and I think it's because it's so malleable.
Yeah, I mean it is pretty wide encompassing because like think about other things like boxing in particular. Like boxing sort of plays to forming one body type, if not having one body type. Like it's about becoming bulky up top. Like your legs don't matter in
Right.
boxing. Um, yeah, I guess
Yeah, or like like doing different martial arts might make you, might send you off to looking like a swimmer or a runner or whatever else, or like a weightlifter or whatever. Whereas jujitsu,
It's kind of like a full body thing. I'd compare it to climbing as far as like how you're using your body or
yeah,
maybe yoga. I like actually do a lot of yoga type stuff. When I roll, there's another girl that does yoga. We talk about it all the time.
yeah, I think that makes sense. In particular, like if you're smaller, yoga is probably a good analog because it is probably more about flexibility and getting around people and all that. That's probably useful skills.
It is.
yeah, flexibility is really important, and I'm not very flexible.
I'm very flexible. That's like I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm the most flexible person in our gym and everyone comments it on it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of time to adapt to your body type since it's been the same forever.
That's true. I was hatched this size and I've always been this size.
Like after puberty and like getting taller, it's like, oh, this is just a gangly fucking mess that I can't control.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people I'm paralyzed by the idea of falling down because it's a long way down.
Yeah, well, I recently tried to go reach for something on the counter and bashed my knee, and I was like, I could have done this so easily if I was like 11. Like I could have done that like 3 times in a row and just smashed my knee over and over again, and nothing was gonna happen. And I was like on the ground. Like I have be even before jujitsu, I have to stretch my knees in a special way
Just getting
every
old
time.
already.
Yeah, because I get like bruising underneath my knee,
He
even if
does.
nothing
He does get
happens.
bruising.
Even if nothing happens, I just get bruising, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
So
My
that's
hips
annoying.
pop a lot, which people think is not a usual. Not. I guess hips isn't really the right thing. Where my leg bone meets my hip bone, like it will just feel tight, and I have to like stretch my leg, and it pops. And people are like, that's not normal. I don't know.
Yeah, like I pop my knees sometimes. My knees are definitely my spot.
That's not
Most
a
of my joints hyperextend.
the knees is
Yeah,
not a good
that's
one to
true.
develop early because that means when you're old, you're gonna be fucked.
No, I know, I know, I know, I know.
Do you guys see yourselves being the 70-year-olds at the gym?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
One would hope.
But a climate catastrophe will happen long
Yeah.
before then. So
Yeah, I mean that's
So maybe we'll be like actively fighting people with
yeah.
the
yeah.
jujitsu by that point. It's hard to say.
Uh,
Because yeah, I have a pair of grandparents that's active. They just moved house at like 70 something because they wanted to be in more of a community so they could like play tennis and stuff with people because they were
that's cool.
sick of not having people to do this stuff with.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I don't see myself being that 70-year-old doing any of this stuff because
Mm.
I'm not that 20 something year old dude. Lead a very sedentary lifestyle.
Well, I didn't really do shit until college, so
I like to work out.
it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize that for a lot of people, the dopamine to like have like this um tangible sense of progress and something like that. That's all I like. Friends with a lot of people with like anxiety and depression, and that helps them in a big way to have like this very tangible, like I am making progress, no matter how small it is. I assumed you do. And you also have a like I guess a goal to reach, although it's not really a progress related goal. It's a time related the belts. But if you're throwing yourself into tournaments, I guess you have progress related goal.
Yeah.
Like I can win this tournament.
And I think Julia might be underselling the extent to which I think post blue time starts to not matter.
Well, I mean, it's still based on skill. They'll just hold it for longer than the time if you like. There's a minimum time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a minimum time.
So, like, you can still not get promoted if you meet the minimum requirements because you're just not good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would just. I mean, it's a years old system, and who reinvents it? But I wouldn't do like time thing. Like if someone's good enough, you know, you're not doing them any favors by sticking them something worse than them. I would think.
Exactly the case with jujitsu. There's a lot to be said for doing a lot of sparring and rolling. Like,
You mean with people who are lower, like
yeah,
yeah,
like you can learn something from anybody, and it's sort of like doing it more, like the repetition in jujitsu in particular is really important because the way you have to like leverage stuff is very particular, and the only way you can learn that is by doing it. And so like it makes sense that it has to be that long for you to understand those concepts. Like that long minimum.
Yeah.
but also like at least in terms of like the actual logistics of being at the gym, the bell doesn't really fucking matter. It
No, there's
doesn't matter.
people better than me at white belt. There's, I guess, not that many people that I beat that are purple belts, though.
So
Um,
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I would almost do it the opposite way. Maybe have the minimum time requirement for white and maybe and then do away with the time requirement for the upper ones because by then it's about honing your ability, not so much fundamentalism.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. It's usually it just takes longer than the minimum
Yeah,
requirement
yeah.
though.
It typically just takes longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it is, especially at the higher belts, it's more of a skill thing, but the minimum time is still there just because it takes longer than that.
Yeah. I don't know. The belt thing is interesting to me. I also didn't know there were belts, although that does make sense because up a belt, you just get hard stomped by someone at the end of their belt.
Yes. But at tournaments, the belt um divisions don't really matter.
They just ignore the
I
stripes.
haven't seen. I don't think at the tournaments that I've ever heard of that like a four stripe blue belt will still fight a no stripe blue belt.
Yeah, the stripes don't matter in a tournament,
Yeah.
just the belt.
Is this
And then
also
in
a,
class, oh sorry.
I was just gonna ask you, is the belt system and the stripe system standardized or even roughly standardized? Or could a gym like decide to just promote someone without the time requirement if they wanted to?
Yeah. And well, so like the gym we go to, we've mentioned is like a big old corporation. They have it mostly standardized. Other gyms will do it different. I don't really know like how different because I've never been to one. But like at the big corporation gym we go to, I'm sure it's happened. I don't think it happens often.
Would the deviations be recognized in tournament, or is it just like it wouldn't even come up? Like they aren't like scoping out how long. It's like this.
No, it's just basically the black belt that promoted you can say, "Yes, I promoted them," and that's valid at a tournament.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if there's some kind of like consensus protocol that's happening, at least with black belts, right? Like, because if I just walked in and was like, I'm a black belt, right? They'd be like, well, none of us
Mhm,
have verified that, like, because there's something called the IBJJF, the
mhm.
International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, and I'm wondering if in order to have a black belt, you have to be
I
certified.
think you do. I
That
think you
Yeah,
have
seems
to be
likely,
like a black belt has to promote you to black belt, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
and then you have to
And
get a
so,
certification to be able to promote other people, presumably.
yeah. Well, and I don't think any black belt can just like promote somebody at any time, right? Like, I think that there is some additional documentation, some
Mm.
additional like cajoling that they have to do in order to verify that
I think
person.
that would
But
also
I
make sense
could
because
be
like
wrong.
if Tom got black belt before you, then he could just be like, Julia, you are
And
now
then
a
I could
black
just
belt.
immediately promote you.
No, that's true, and that's probably happened.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that it
Yeah,
probably
they
hasn't.
probably try to prevent it.
Right.
One
But
would hope.
I mean, like, I can wear a black belt, but for the purposes of a tournament, that's when it starts to
Yeah,
matter.
like, if you just put on a black belt and go to a tournament, I guess you can get your ass kicked,
Yeah,
but
Yeah, and I don't really see the advantage of it. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess,
the trial
like,
by
if they don't
fire, dude.
check, which I think they do,
I think they
They
do,
probably
yeah,
do.
yeah.
then yeah, you can just get your ass beat,
I
I
was more
guess.
asking
Yeah.
about like other rank, like if someone just started jujitsu and their pal was like, let's just knock you up to blue belt, why not? Like, would the tournament just be
Well,
like, he's wearing a blue belt, let's go, or do they actually verify
yeah, I think it
independently?
might be more loose. It might be more
Sometimes
loose in the lower belt.
kids have a different belt system, and when they turn 16, they can enter as blue belts, but that is the only, like, exception like that I know of.
I've heard that sometimes they make people who are like really strong wrestlers blue belts.
That also makes sense.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
D1 athletes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
they'll just
sense.
make them blue belts.
Because they just know how to do the white belt things.
Right. Or they're so proficient in the game that they're proficient in,
Mhm,
and it's still applicable that
mhm.
it's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
like it would be ridiculous for you to go against white belt
yeah.
in,
Yeah,
yeah, at least in a tournament setting.
So, there's some exceptions at the lower levels, I think.
But yeah, I think once you get to brown, it's pretty,
It's pretty, like, locked down.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you do have to get, like, approval
yep,
to promote someone to black belt.
yeah.
yeah, it's probably a lot of overhead to do it any lower than
Right. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna verify that this person can become blue. Like that
well,
happens like
yeah,
probably thousands of times a day.
Yeah, there's no, like, tests or anything, like, I know some other martial arts have, like, tests and you pass them to get your belt.
I think other gyms do have tests though.
Oh,
Yeah,
Not how
our gym
because
does have tests.
not how many sticks of bamboo you chop through, swipe.
Yeah, it's not like that. Your professor is just like, yeah, you roll good.
and I think there's like a genre of YouTube video of like black belt tests or brown belt tests where
Mm.
like it'll be like, oh, you have to go against the, like the three
Well,
black belts in our gym or whatever.
fighting someone as a test is like a little different than like just doing like knowing
Yeah,
moves.
but it's also kind of funny because it's like you could have just been off that day, or they could have been off that day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like there's a lot of variation in my own, and I can recognize it because I'm going against the same people. A lot of variation in my own ability to perform based on like how much I've slept, how much I've eaten, if I'm dehydrated or not. Like I can just feel it. Like I'm going up against somebody and I'm like, I'm gassed,
I
or I'm like,
agree.
I'm feeling great right now. Like, we typically go for an hour and then um afterwards there is sparring for about another hour. And we I can just some days I'm like I can keep going, like, you know, I want to keep doing it. And some days I'm like I feel so destroyed right now. I need to go home. And it's not even because of what happened at the you know, at the thing. Maybe it was even a light day, but I just didn't feel right or something. So,
A challenge system would
but
be
like
interesting if it's like you challenge 3 at the division above you, and if you perform well in 2 out of 3, like not even win, just like perform well in 2 out of 3, they grant.
I don't know.
you should call them and tell them that.
Yeah.
Well, because on some level that would prove you can hang with the above you, right? Like,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It would kind of be, yeah, yeah, that would be interesting. It would be very stressful,
well, yeah, I'm sure,
right?
but you would decide when you want to do it. Like, I think
Hmm.
I'm ready for a promotion. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And doing it by 3 people like lessens the chance of you getting someone that's just having an off day.
Yeah.
I guess then if you have it initiated by the person, you got the dudes that'll do it like between the minimum amount of time that passes
Yeah,
every time. And then you're just like fighting people all day. So I could see why it's just appointed.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because sometimes I think there are just some people who won't.
And people way overestimate their ability.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
of course.
Go against like some white belt dudes that think they should be able to beat me and like do not like that I can fight them.
yeah, this is a topic that I did want to talk about was Dunning-Kruger with respect
Yeah.
to,
But I'm
so
all for
like,
humiliating those people. That's why I think the system's great. They're like, I can take
yeah,
you, and then they get put in their fucking place.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I just don't want them to like try to hurt me or
Well, yes, yeah,
anything.
that does fuel a, a negative
Yeah.
cycle.
yeah, which is a bigger problem for her than it
Yeah,
is for
sometimes
me.
I just let there's certain people that I just let win because I'm like, I don't want to try to fight you.
Yeah,
Yeah, there Yeah, there are just some people who come in, um, and you see it all the time on the Jiu-Jitsu subreddit that this is like spoofed, but they'll just be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna like see red and I'm just gonna like eviscerate everyone,"
Yeah.
and so then they walk onto the mat, and I've seen people come, thrash their heart out, and never come again. Like they walk in basically to satiate their ego, and then they just like, flail for an hour and then they leave and never come back.
Yeah. Some people really are just like, I could fight anyone. I could fight you. And I'm like, I could definitely beat you up, but okay.
Yeah,
but
and
he's
I encounter a lot of people in my daily life who like casually will mention, like, "Oh yeah, I'd beat you up." Or, like,
Yeah, when you mention you do jujitsu, like everybody, no
yeah,
matter what
I
their
could take you.
experience with fighting is, will be like, "Oh yeah, I could beat you up." I'm
yeah.
like, "Yeah, sure."
And I'm like, I've seen it, it just like puts everything into perspective, right? Um, and I also have this theory that a lot of men think they would perform really well in fighting because they fantasize about it a lot.
Yeah,
And so they correlate their own skill with, and they equate the amount of time that they've thought about doing it with the equivalent amount of time of doing it. Like it's almost like they're practicing, but they're practicing in their head. And so they're like, "Oh yes, I will do really well because I've thought about these situations enough." And obviously you can't just think your way.
Yeah, you have to like you gotta learn the muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also an element of toxic masculinity of like, I cannot believe anything other than I am the alpha male that anyone encroaching
Yeah.
on my turf. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely jujitsu attracts that type of person.
But it like once you start working at jujitsu or, like probably a lot of other things, you start to realize like how little you know about it.
Yeah, if someone like that like continues to show up, like someone who's good is gonna just put them in their place.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
If
it's
they're
such
gonna
a
act like that.
it's a very wild mental gymnastics thing because like I know that I have certain biological advantages if I decided to do these like height or long arms or whatever disadvantage advantages but I don't for a second believe I could outperform anyone who actually does the things that I would have an advantage
Yeah.
of. Like it is an advantage if I hone it. It is not just like an implicit I was born with the skill to do this thing. But some people genuinely
Right.
believe they were born with the skill to do a thing, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, even when I was just like kind of casually doing it with my friend, it was still pretty rigorous and it was pretty regular as well. And I would encounter people and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, like I would beat you up." And then I would be like, "Well, I mean, like, I don't think you would." I mean, like, at first I'd be like, "Do you train a martial art?" And then they would go, "No." And I'm like, "Well, have you done anything like informal?" And then they would go, "No." And then I'd be like, "I'd probably whoop your ass." And I was a lot more I'm a little bit thicker nowadays. I used to be a lot thinner. And there were, I think, twice when people were like, "Okay, I will beat you up." And I was like,
I
"Okay."
was there. I
And
watched
then
Tom beat those guys.
I was like, I beat them up. And then I was just like, I don't know what you expected. You haven't done this before.
Yeah,
You told me you've never done it before. And that I'm much better now. I'm
Yeah.
way better now. So,
yeah, it's pretty crazy. We had people like that at our middle school too. Like there are a lot of like short guys at our middle school complexes that were like I could beat. Like, ow. Like have
Yeah.
no training in anything, and obviously I didn't either. But it's like I have a foot on you, and like 6 inches of wingspan. Like I'm going to hold your forehead and just push you away from me.
People think their bloodlust is unique.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's just a lot of man complex.
Who would win? Me with 4 years of prep time or you bloodlusted?
But yeah, this thing like Tom would destroy me in a fight, presumably. Like particularly one advantage or like one in the style of jujitsu. Obviously, he would destroy me in a straight up like punch fight. Probably would still beat me because I do very little physical activity. Like the idea of just like the people that are like I do nothing, but I will surely win because I am God chosen and I will
Yeah.
destroy everyone. It's like no.
And it happens a lot.
They watch the Street Fights Reddit.
Yeah, yeah. Or they work out, right? And
Yes,
so
that's a big
they
thing.
lift weights and they're like, "This will make me crush your head like a watermelon,"
Yeah,
right?
But they've never crushed a watermelon in their
right.
hand either.
Okay, but they think, "Oh, ooga booga my way into
That's
whooping your
true.
ass."
Yeah, like
And
True.
every discipline is a matter of technique. Like people think boxing is just do a punch, but the way you punch is so important in
right, yeah.
boxing. Like there's so much behind everything, and people are just like, I lifted this much weight, I can put that much force behind my fist, I will destroy you. It's like you no, that's not how any of this works at
Yeah,
all.
like why do you think all the boxers are kind of small
Yeah,
compared to weightlifters?
Well, I mean, there are
There's
weight
weight
classes.
classes, but like boxers are generally smaller than weightlifters, pros.
Yeah. But I mean, they're super heavy, but they're
Yeah.
not like I know what you're saying. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I and it's it is very satisfying to put somebody in their place when they're being a piece of shit
Yeah, but then you have to worry
or
about them
overconfident.
Try
becoming
to
rage
avoid it.
monsters,
Yeah.
escalating.
Well, and I'm not gonna provoke somebody. I'm not gonna be like,
These dudes provoke themselves.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
in
not
in
like
their mind, you winning is them is provoking them. Like you cheated and they should have won, and
well,
how dare you?
yeah. I mean, I guess if you're so
Well,
deep in your own
I don't know that
Kool-Aid,
people ever accuse me of cheating, but like some people do use more strength than they should in moves. Like someone is like, for example, like I'll be a mount position on top of someone who can just bench me off.
Mhm.
So it's like, yes, you can just bench me off, but this won't work on other people. So like you're just kind of screwing your own learning by just like using that, you know?
Right, but they don't care about that. They just want to win. They want to win the fight that's in
Right,
front of them.
right.
yeah,
Yeah, there was a lot of that mentality in wrestling and stuff like that. And like you also see it in like pre-fight stuff for stuff like UFC and various
yeah,
MMA things. Probably even like people like mean mugging people and just
yeah.
like I'm gonna destroy you, fucking get you.
They get whooped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The attitudes at our gym are for the most part pretty good. The people who run it are very friendly and like very reasonable. So I think they like have talks with the really intense guys if they get too
yeah.
intense.
Like, yeah. I one thing really sticks out to me, um, in my experience. So there's something called slamming that you're not supposed to do, and um, and you can kill someone
Mhm.
doing this. So maybe we should actually maybe do a little demonstration,
Okay.
and I'll slam you and kill
Is
you.
this like
Okay.
someone wrapped around you and you just like
Yeah,
Yeah, you just slam them on
you
the
might want
ground.
to
So this is closed
move that mic.
guard.
yeah. So this is closed guard. So what Julia's doing to me right now is what I typically do to other people.
Yeah, this is a good position for me. Actually, I can choke from here, so and like do a lot of other things. I usually play open guard, which is more like this. But yeah.
Yeah. So I was in this position. Some guy, I was beating him consistently, and he's very angry.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
aggressive.
yeah, and so he stood up and he went like this, and he
Oh
basically
yeah.
took me and slammed me back down on the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah, and that can like break someone's neck, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that there's like a couple moves that you can do that are prohibited.
I mean, did he
But
get banned from that from your gym? Like that seems like an instant removal type of thing.
If someone had been watching, they probably would have said something. I don't know.
he was not banned for
He
sure.
wasn't banned.
But I didn't mention it to the professor. I just spoke to him. I'm like, I'm not gonna roll with you anymore.
You should
You
mention it to the
know,
professor though, because just because it was fine for you, like if they do it
yeah,
in the
maybe I should.
future,
Yeah, I don't
Tell
know.
me who it was later.
It was Ken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, he doesn't
This
go to our
was a
gym
long
anymore.
time
Yeah, this was
ago.
yeah,
Yeah,
forever
this
ago.
was years ago.
Yeah, and I'm like kind of like a jovial, goofy guy.
yeah.
So
Mm,
a lot of people like assume like if you don't act like an alpha male, if you don't act like a chud, you can't win.
yeah.
And so I'm like goofing around and I'll like joke or talk during the rolls. And I think sometimes that pisses people off even more.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
And then like sometimes we do what's called guard rotation where you like rotate partners and so like that's usually when I'm like fighting these guys otherwise I don't get paired up with them. But every once in a while I'll get paired up with a guy who just like has like 80 pounds on me and is going at 100 and I'm like why are you doing this, like
Yeah.
we could not do it like this.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate facet of, I guess, the human condition in general that like certain things just attract certain mentalities, and like there are obviously careers like this that is like it is not 100% rule, but it's a general trend of like, this type of person does this type of.
mhm.
Is it raining
Yeah,
there?
it's
Oh,
raining.
there's a dust
Yeah,
storm. We had a warning.
yeah, it's
Okay.
raining.
It's bad weather.
Or yeah, or it's dusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like wow.
But yeah, so those are our experiences with our particular gym. Um,
There's my favorite guy is so you line up in rank order and this guy is one rank below us, so he often is standing next to me. But instead of standing next to me, he just stands directly in front of me.
Jeez.
So I can't see. He like blocks me. Like every time I'm next to him, he just stands in front of me instead. I'm like, dude, just stand in line.
What is the mentality? Like he just thinks he's better than you because you're a woman. And he's like, I should be standing here. Like
I don't know. He just stands in front of me. I'm like,
Yeah, it's happened like 3 times.
it's insane.
He's also he's a kind of chuddy.
yeah,
Oh, but
Tom has rolled with him, I
clearly
think.
he's a chud if he's doing that stuff. Like
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just like, yeah, that guy. Yeah, there's and, like so, like, there's just, like, a couple people, but the thing is, like, it's really clear to me that our gym has, like, actually a pretty good, like, culture because we don't see those people anymore.
Yeah, a lot of those people either don't come often or don't come ever.
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
So, like, what happens is they bounce off the
I
gym.
think they just get bullied out by sunshine and kindness.
Yeah. Because especially the people at the very top of the gym are very like I would even consider them to be goofy, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the people in charge are like very responsible for like the lighthearted culture of
Yeah.
our gym
Mm.
Well,
compared to other
it's
gyms.
probably infuriating too to be like, because like you mentioned that you'll goof around and talk during the rolls and stuff. Like the idea that people are not putting in their maximum effort and these people are being beaten is probably why they leave because they're like it's more they feel derision that like somebody is goofing off while beating them that
Mm.
they want to go to a
I'll
maximum
goof off
effort
while
gym.
I'm getting my ass whooped too. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also worth noting that our gym produces a lot of very good competitors. Like one of the instructors at our gym just won nationals something. And like a lot of the kids at our gym like compete at the top level. So I think a lot of people who are serious, like want to seriously train, show up at our gym and then realize that it's like very inclusive to casual people and like don't always like that culture.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like the culture of wrestling feels almost in opposition in some ways because like you do get the like rage monster people and the mean mugging and like something like that, but it's a lot more uh rather than people losing this to rage. Like I saw a lot of people um in all age groups, whichever was wrestling, just like when they lose, just like the all the stress and everything, just like they just cry on the mat the instant they lose. Like even like more mature like teenage kids, they're just like because you're just like this bundle of like stress and like just like going at it, and then they lose and just like immediately start crying. And you see that a lot. Interesting the opposition to that.
well,
Yeah,
that might
I've
happen.
never seen that. It might happen at the higher level.
It might also happen more if you're a child.
Yeah, that might also
Well,
be
I
like
mean,
because
I'm
they're
talking like
children.
16, 17, 18-year olds. This
Yeah,
also
and
Yeah.
happen.
you're going through puberty.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But yeah, I haven't seen that happen even to kids, but I don't watch a lot of kids
yeah,
like
that is true.
fight.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
guess.
think just being older maybe gives you a little bit of a different perspective,
Yeah,
right?
and gives you
Yeah.
more perspective.
I guess
Yeah,
I
where
just
you're
don't think
like
of like
when
16,
you're
17, 18-year-old kids, but I guess yeah, you are still going
but also like to a certain extent, like performing well in like a wrestling match might pay for your college.
to.
That's
Yeah.
So
also
like
true. It's
on one hand it's like
different.
maybe you have perspective, but on the other hand, maybe the kid has the correct perspective and a lot is at stake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
which
mean,
is like sucks to put on kids.
yeah.
Yes.
It happened to Trevor too. I mean, sometimes it's not that. Like Trevor wasn't like wrestling for scholarship or something. It's just like he wanted to win and did, just like the sudden like the weight of just like I have lost and now I am out. I think it just kind of hits you all at once because you're not fighting. Like, because when you're losing, it's just adrenaline. You're like, I want to get out. I want to get out. I
Yeah.
want to get around them. And then like you lose, and it's just like the adrenaline just drops and it just all goes away.
That makes sense.
It might just be a
Yeah.
normal emotional response. I don't have the strongest emotional through line, probably.
I've never seen it happen.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anyone cry after losing.
No.
Um, I think I've seen people cry after getting promoted.
Yes,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
there's one woman that goes to our gym that cries every time she gets promoted. It's
Like
very sweet.
promoted per stripe, even.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah, I thought so.
Oh, it might be stripes too,
Well,
but
yeah,
Yeah,
because like,
definitely belts for
how many
sure.
times would you have seen her get promoted if not stripes, right?
twice.
2 belt
Yeah,
promotions
because she
so
went
far.
white to
Oh, white to blue,
blue
blue
and
to
then blue
purple.
to
I guess.
purple.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know,
I
I'm
just thought it
not
was interesting. I mean, again,
completely.
yeah, I did see it trending younger, but yeah, I didn't see a lot of like, you beat me, now I'm gonna fucking try to kill you with this slam move.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
You don't see a lot of that, but you do see that.
Yeah, you do see that.
yeah, that is, I,
Yeah.
I think definitely a thing you should report because just like that person will try that again, probably.
Yeah, I think maybe I did bring it up.
I think you did say something to Vince.
Yeah. No, yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So I didn't bring it up to our, like, the highest guy.
There's other people that work
Yeah,
there.
I mentioned it. Yeah, no, I remember that now.
Yeah, because he mentioned that there were several complaints against Ken, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so, like, they know when people are clowning and
Why let them
they'll
stay
put
there if
'em
they
to
have several complaints? That just seems insane.
Mm,
Well, I mean, he's not there anymore.
he's not there anymore. I think they probably have, like, a strike system where they, like, warn him, and then if he keeps doing it, they kick him out, is what I assume.
But I would think like something with the chance to kill someone shouldn't be a strike system.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to say because, like, anyone can mess up a choke and,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
put someone in danger of their life, so, like, where do you draw that
Yeah,
line?
and
Well,
also
okay.
Something
Well, you can draw the line at the very deliberate slam. Like that
well,
is.
it's yeah, like, in the moment, it's grayer than I made it seem, but, like, I mean, like, to me, it was very clearly a slam, but, like, you know, he could have done it harder. So, it was, like, semi-controlled. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, it's hard to say
Yeah.
exactly, like, what was going on
Yeah.
So, yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. And it's kind of weird because I feel like when you are wrestling at a school, you have the mentality that the people that you wrestle with on a daily basis are your friends and your allies, right? That you're going to go fight some other team,
Yeah.
right? So if they beat you, it's like whatever, we're on the same team. That means you're really good,
Yeah.
right? But and then if you get beaten at somebody at a tournament who you actually consider to be your enemy, you're like, well, that's gonna happen once or twice, right? Like I'm only gonna see that person this time, or maybe again, like at some other tournament. But in the scope of our experience, right? Your experience might only be at the gym. So the people at the gym are your adversaries, and you're seeing your adversary every day,
I
right?
guess.
And if they're like better than you, and like I don't know, and are willing to just whoop you every time, then you're going to get beaten over and over and over and over and over again, and that I think has a different kind of toll on somebody.
Yeah. Also, I actually did hurt someone once, I broke someone's arm once. It was her fault, but,
I saw it happen.
yeah, the professor
Yeah,
didn't see it happen, so he didn't know,
Mm.
like, who was at fault. She didn't blame me or anything, and I was like, yeah, this is what happened." But, like, in situations like that, it's, they have to be able like, I didn't face any
Yeah.
repercussions because it wasn't my fault, but, like,
But that's also
where
yeah,
do
and I
like
watched it, but of course I'm going to vouch for you.
that's
Right.
So
also a more natural thing though. Like the course, somebody's arm breaking in the course of doing submissions and grapples and stuff like that directly affecting the arm and wrenching on the arm is like pretty normal thing. Like
yeah,
getting angry and slamming someone is
yeah,
telltale
that
signs of
was
Right.
more
No,
aggression.
egregious.
I agree that they're different, but if the professor didn't see, it's hard for them to assess how different they
But
are.
also, you
Y-
said he had multiple reports against him. Like multiple people going up to you saying, "I didn't feel safe going against this person," is like a, you know,
That's true. And he's not there anymore,
yeah,
so he might have gotten kicked out.
yeah. Because yeah, if somebody breaks your arm during a hold, like you probably weren't thinking, "I don't feel safe with this person." It's probably like, "I'm gonna get out of this hold," and then, "Oh shit, my arm is broken."
yeah,
Yeah.
But the explanation for why somebody could slam somebody and it be an accident is they stood up, they didn't have the core strength to hold on to you, and
Yeah.
they fall back down.
Yeah, basically.
Like that can happen.
Yeah.
So like it's not insane that somebody would
Right.
slam somebody by accident.
Yeah, or by not knowing the rules.
Right.
That is also true. But he knew.
He
Yeah.
didn't know the
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's no world for it, but like I would also think you would discourage picking people up because of that. Like new people at least. Like,
Yeah, maybe newer people.
Yeah, I get picked up a lot.
Everybody stands up out of guard. So
Yeah. I stand up a lot, but I don't often pick people up usually.
but also like it kind of requires somebody to curl up with you, which also actually doesn't happen that much.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore because it's not a good position. I
And
need
it's
to like
unsafe.
stay heavy.
Yeah,
And
it's unsafe.
yeah.
Like I got slammed and I never, ever, ever, ever did it again. I think there are times when maybe you want to do it, but yeah, I was just like, I don't want to ever have that
Yeah.
happen again.
Like I feel like only inexperienced people actually come up like that.
yeah.
Like even if I stay in closed guard, I'm pulling.
Yeah, you're
or
pulling and
following.
hanging.
Yeah, because like the best case in that situation is like you're gonna get fucking rattled as you hit the ground. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like if you stay down, you can sweep them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
If you
Yeah.
go up, you can't sweep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually haven't done that in a long time.
What come up with a person? You don't even really play close guard.
Yeah, that's also
So
true.
like that it doesn't even really make any sense.
Mhm.
So yeah. Do you have any more questions?
nothing off the top of my head. I don't know. Do you guys have any more jujitsu fun facts?
Well, we should probably put a disclaimer. We're only blue belts. We're not
Well,
actually
blue
that great
belts.
at
Yeah.
this.
We are going to be purple belts soon.
Well, maybe.
That's what our professor keeps telling us. So I
I
assume
think
he's
him
not
saying
lying.
you should do a tournament at blue belt is probably pretty clear indication that he's ready to promote you.
Yes, he also said, I'm going to give you your purple belts by the end of this year.
That's
He
even
did
more
say
clear.
that.
That's
He
even
did
more
say that.
clear, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, yeah, well, but that doesn't mean we're purple belts yet. It means he thinks we'll be because we've been doing jujitsu for well, I mean,
Yeah,
the twice.
we took COVID off, so
Yeah.
that was like a big break. And like that was like a weird gap in our training where we were already partway through blue. And now
Yeah, I think we had like one stripe.
yeah, and now we're like getting the rest of the way through blue, but we only have 2 stripes, so we're kind of a little higher level than that.
There were people who were white belt that are almost purple now.
Yeah.
There were people who were white belt when we
Who
were blue.
trained through COVID.
Yeah, who trained
Yeah.
through COVID. Yeah.
But like I think sometimes they just sort of ignore the stripes because like we only have 2 stripes. We should have 4 by the time we get our purple belts. We'll probably not even I don't think he's even giving us any more before.
Yeah, I've seen people would I think I remember when old Lucas got promoted to black. He had no stripes on his brown belt. He had
Yeah,
zero.
sometimes I don't think they even
They
bother
just
with
don't
the
care.
stripes.
Yeah.
Like at that point, it's like I'm a brown belt. Doesn't matter how many
But
stripes.
but the stripes matter again when you hit.
Yeah, they matter again for competitions. I think
They also matter for prestige, right?
for
Because
prestige
like
as well.
being a or 4 stripe black belt,
I mean,
it's like
someone higher than that gave you the
right,
stripes.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our professor has 2 or 3, I think.
I think he might have 4 because
Might-
he has the 3 and then 1 on the other side.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is there a
So he
maximum
might-
stripe at black?
I don't know. There is a red belt, but only members of the Gracie family can have the red belt.
Praise
Cringe.
be.
Cringe.
Praise be.
That's so fucking
It's
stupid.
stupid. Yeah, it's really fucking stupid. Yeah.
Does that mean your professor could marry into the Gracie family and get a red belt? Would he have to take the Gracie
I think
name?
you need to be a Gracie
Oh,
descendant.
you need the
Oh,
blood
maybe
of
you
the
need to have
Gracies.
Gracie blood. Yeah.
The Gracie blood.
That's so fucking stupid.
Yeah. But yeah, basically black belt is the highest belt you can get. And jujitsu is known for being the sport where it takes the longest to get the black belt.
Mhm.
Because and people also describe it as the chess of martial arts, which is kind of a pretentious thing. But I think it's pretty accurate because,
Yeah.
like,
It's very thinky. You
yeah,
have to like plan and react and like basically like a puzzle.
and especially when you're wearing the gi, it can slow way down because I know in wrestling it can be really fucking fast.
Mm.
Like people are like lightning quick, zooming
Some of the
around.
reversals are very quick. Like some people get good
Yeah,
at very quick reversals. Specifically.
but if a person wants to in jujitsu, they can just halt it,
Yeah, like with the gi, you can make really strong grips that like basically people only have a couple options to get out of.
and it'll take like time to
And
do.
then like by that time you've done something else and then they have to do something else. It's a
Mhm.
whole thing.
Yeah, so it's probably one of the slowest martial arts too, is what I would say.
You can roll really slow. Like some people can just force a slow roll. You don't have to be super strong. Like I kind of roll like that.
I roll pretty slow too. Yeah, so I don't think I roll as slow as she does. Maybe I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Normally, when you play from bottom, it's slower. So
Yeah, because you're kind of waiting for an opening when you play
Yeah,
from
you're not playing
bottom.
for control.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I've been working on my offense. I'm not very good at it though.
yeah. I've been trying to work on my top game and my throwing. I can pass guard pretty well now, but I still cannot throw.
My submissions are horrible, as are my sweeps. Like
Hey, my sweeps are dope.
I can like do a sweep eventually, but like I'm on guard for a while.
Yeah, I actually like my sweeps. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
That's
jujitsu.
Yeah.
jujitsu.
I mean, we covered like an hour and a half worth of stuff. Went sort of all over, but I think it's par for the course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So unless
that's all I got.
I don't have anything else
Well,
about jujitsu.
yeah, I mean,
Unless
yeah, I guess that's a segue because as I tell everyone, this is set up in such can sort of return and do another. Um, or you guys are a unique case because you chose to do this. Or you guys can turn and do another one either together or depending. Um,
you could
yeah,
do one on fan art.
I could do one on fan art.
Yeah,
That
I
would
actually
be
think that'd
so
be fun.
cringe.
Yeah.
That might earn you YouTube fame.
yeah, your your spiel about fan art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this was good. This is I think it's always interesting when I go into a thing like I don't have any practical experience with, and I guess I have tangential.
I mean, yeah, and you wrestled,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
so
what I mean by tangential. In the realm of. But yeah, thanks for coming.
cool. Bye. See you in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, is anybody watching or
And
listening?
that
It's made
emoji.